Time from the students, from the parents is poor in terms of villages. So it's for us teachers, as the principal from the Kendriya Vidyalaya spoke, Sangadan, I forget the panelist. He said it has to start from the heart of the student, the teacher. They had to see, if in a locality, even in my jurisdiction, there's one school dropout, I think that teacher should personally feel responsible. That's how. I've seen this, school dropouts, how the decision is taken. They'll first walk to every house. After the next 2 hours, they'll sit somewhere. After 2 hours, they'll sit somewhere and start calling out, are there any dropouts? So nobody will respond. You have to go house to house like the census. That kind of commitment has to come into teachers, and teachers have to be really, really trained to become administrators. Administration is a skill. It's not like teaching. It's another skill which has to be ingrained in teachers if they have to become administrators. And we have had lapses. I agree with you, ma'am, on this.
Sir, may I request you to kindly present the comments and the question from your table? Or the speaker from the table?
Answer has to be given by me. No, the question which was raised is the traditional way of teaching and ICT. How does it become one of the questions which is raised? The teachers, students have spectacles at a very young age, and they are losing interest in reading books, etc. So lots of these things ICT is bringing, negative influences. And only certain strata of society is benefited by ICT education. Basic skills of teaching and learning and the pedagogic skills are lost. And it's very costly. So is it worth the effort doing ICT in education? That's the basic question which is raised here.
Anyone from the other tables would like to comment on this?
And methodologies, and when we adopt the innovative methods, definitely our traditional methods we have to give up a few traditional methods. But again, as in yesterday's session, one of the member mentioned that textbook reading, with audio and video, and it becomes more interesting when the child goes through the internet and other things, and in the process of search or the browse, he learns more. But when a child is taking a book, probably he's stuck to that. But still we see kids going around with the books, novels, and they do have habits of reading. But we have to hold the old traditions of teaching. At times they're very good practices that we had as children. But as teachers we have to adopt the new innovative methods, because our children are moving at a greater pace. So we have to catch up with this pace. So we have to be on our toes and catch up with the new. Yes, we have to prepare our kids for the global scenario, but otherwise there's going to be a void between the Indian students and the students abroad. So we have to, yes, so we have to adopt to these, yes. So we have to give up few traditions, but not totally losing them. We can't totally lose out on them. Yes, yes, strike a balance, yes. Definitely.
May I request someone from this table to kindly bring out the point?
Okay. We don't have any different points than the first table, but the first point is sharing resources. Like the corporate schools and the private schools are really doing well, but more than donating money, I think we should share the resources. Like we have simulations and videos and PowerPoints and all that, where we can share it with the underprivileged schools and their students. So I think that will build very healthy relation in bringing up their knowledge in ICT and the applications. So we have to extend this help, and government has to make a policy. Like just few schools, because they are good at their work and they really want to reach out to the underprivileged, it doesn't help. So the government has to come out as a policy. And if it comes from the national policy, it is all the more better. And the recruitment of the teachers, it's very, very important. Because the teachers have to be very, very, they have to learn how to operate a system. I'm talking about the rural scenario here, and they have to also understand how it works, and they have to have an attitude for learning. If the teacher hasn't got the attitude, I think it becomes very difficult. And the questions... Yes. So the regular and permanent teachers in the... The questions I'm passing it on.
What are the social responsible of the corporate in manufacturing the low-cost ICT tools for underprivileged schools?
Anybody who would like to comment on that? Our panelists? I'll ask somebody from the private sector to answer this if...
The learner response system, and the unit cost for that particular unit is very, very low, and you only need one PC or laptop to run it, and you can have up to 1,000 children using handsets, and you've got formative and summative assessment going on, and you've got, someone talked about engagement and learning. We use gaming technology in our assessment, so we try and bring the Xbox and the PlayStation to learning within our product. But, I mean, that particular handset, it's 100 rupees. So it's not an expensive product, and you stick it in your hand and you can have 1,000 children at a time. And the key is, you know what the kids are thinking straight away. As soon as the kids respond, you know through formative assessment what every child is thinking, and whether they've understood the concept or if they haven't, and where the gaps of knowledge are. So the solutions are there, you just need to go and find them. You can ask me if you like.
Thank you.
To high-end schools, I guess, and private managements. If they could get a tax waiver from the government, saying that for every 10 that you sell here in the city to the private managements, you've got to give free access for 10 government schools, let's say. I think that would be one solution. Second suggestion would be, like Sir was saying, that the teachers have to be sensitive when there are lots of school dropouts. If there could be a government policy to say that if, even in rural India, it could become a compulsory thing that every kid needs to go to school from grade 1 to 8, only then will they get free vocational training, which could land them with those Fortune 500 company jobs, which that will be totally free, and also probably a senior citizen, that's for the parents. When they become senior citizens, there will be some kind of a pension which comes to them in addition, or they can actually say that they will get it only if their kids have gone through schooling. If they've got kids. Something to tighten up the system, whereby that will also tell the parents that, okay, fine, today I'm going to go through a rough time, and maybe, we've got to fend for this, and then make sure that our kids go through this free education system. Only then we will be entitled to the senior citizen policy or pension or whatever else. And these kids, their future is made, because once we struggle for these 8 years, which is free education, we get into vocational training, and from there on, they get their jobs and so on and so forth. And if the support could come in for higher education, that would be a solution.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we'll move on to this table with the comments and the questions.
Hi. After having attended 2 days of training, there's one thing that is, whatever, smart boards, and how much have the corporates actually thought about how are they going to recycle all this? How much of e-waste are we going to produce? Every child, one computer. After 5 years, that child gets another computer. What are we going to do with all this? It's really bothering me. I would like to have some,
Any quick comments on that?
Yeah, I think that's a lovely one, because I know for sure that there's something called e-recycling, which is already in place, which means that all these old computers that have been, collected by people, there are certain parts which can actually be reassembled and used. And I think that's already in place, and there are industries, and that's one of the happening industries at the moment. I was reading this article sometime recently.
How much of it is recycled? Is it 100%, or is it 50%, or is it 20%?
I think.
And how much of it is not recycled?
See,
I think we have to be aware when we are saying we are going to get one computer per child. That means we are going to have a lot of computers and a lot of waste.
No, absolutely we're going to have, but the thing is that at least people have started thinking about e-waste. Yeah, and it's in place. How many of us here are actually sitting in the hall who can raise our hands and say 100%, I've really cut down the use of plastics, I'm going around with a cloth bag. I think we talk a lot, even as teachers, but we forget. Quite often we forget. We're making an attempt. Similarly, I think even with the recycling, they are making an attempt.
Can I just follow that up as well and say, as a company, there's an international directive called the WE Directive, and we're a member of that, and we have to pay a tax for everything we actually sell. And we do that in the USA and the UK. We get charged everything we manufacture. We has to be ROIS compliant and CE and FCs and all these other compliances. And the key one is something called the WE directive, which is a recycling directive. And we actually pay tax that actually goes back in.